India as a country is obsessed with marks and grades. The obsession continues where your name is replaced with your board results. You're not Rahul anymore, you're not Anjali, you're a 97% or you're 61%. Somewhere along the way that has really sort of affected me as an individual. When I was growing up in Calcutta, I was very fortunate to have attended one of the oldest schools in this country. I went to La Martiniere College, which is probably one of the oldest boys' schools in India. And what we had at school was what I'm going to talk to you about, was a holistic education. I'm going to talk to you about this initially. The obsession of wanting to becoming a doctor, an engineer, or lawyer. If you want to do it, that's fantastic. But like me, if you sucked at mathematics, that kind of takes away from the science and engineering aspect for sure. So when I was 17 or 16 years old, I went and spoke to a teacher and I said, I want to study social sciences. I want to do humanities. And his reaction was, are you a girl? Awkward. And I thought to myself, I said, why can't I study history and literature and these beautiful things that make things come alive? But I did commerce with mathematics and struggled through maths. I had 12 math tutors. I learned more about drumming and the Rolling Stones and Pink Floyd than I ever learned about trigonometry and mathematics. Needless to say, I scraped through maths, but the social pressure of wanting to go and taking more tuitions always raised one question. Why do we go to tuitions? Essentially, we're paying people to teach us what we should be learning at school. And then it becomes a social sort of angle of things. Your parents would want you to say, I want to go to tuition, I need extra help. And so as a culture, we started creating a pressure situation for ourselves, for our students, for our children. So when I decided to move back to India, I spent a lot of time in England as an investment banker, okay? And it involved a bit of math, and a lot of my friends joked that the recession happened because I pressed wrong numbers. Not true, by the way. So investment banking was an interesting aspect where I learned a lot about how other people studied different things and chose careers not relevant to what they studied. So in India, when I remember growing up, they said if you wanted to do banking or consulting, you had to have economics or BCom or BBA. The person who sat next to me on my floor when I worked at Merrill Lynch had theology. He studied religion, and his thesis was on Judas. And this was the person who was sitting right next to me. The person on my left studied Shakespeare. And then I started questioning something very important. How important is the information passed to our students and parents about what we should study? There's a very famous American writer, his name is Charles Bukowski. His quote said, find what you love and let it kill you. In India, we let everything else kill us apart from what we love. Okay? So, this is a bit of my story before I get into where education and how important it is for you to be a well-informed young Indian student if you are to lead this country into a developed state. For the longest time, India is developing. When I was 6 years old, we were developing. When I'm 21, we were developing. I'm 32, we're still developing. At some point, I would love to hear India is developed. Okay? Now, if you watch football, this part is very important. I'm a diehard fan of a football team called Arsenal. Okay? And they never win. So whoever said yes, I mean, I love you, but you know, we'll never win. Okay? Let's just embrace that. If anything else, we live longer because when Arsenal plays, our heart grows stronger. So this is me after Arsenal lost a game. I was 25 years old. I had a fantastic job in London. And I said, why am I here? What is the reason for me to live in London? And I said, well, it's mostly football, not the job. And if Arsenal isn't winning and I hate my job, what am I doing there? So then I said, I'm going to move back to India. Where in India? I was born in Calcutta. My family is full of writers and professors and filmmakers. My grand aunt was Mahashweta Devi, who was one of the most respected writers and one of the most translated writers from India. So to think of coming back to India and getting into writing and cinema was always a possibility. But I must tell you all one thing. If you have an idea, you must go on a journey. And that is very important. You must talk to people. Believe me when I say this, people have time to talk to you if you come up and spend 5 minutes with them. So I landed up in Bihar, like most people from London would. And it was a remarkable experience because there were days when someone would say, please don't come outside of your house, there's a cobra. And I would think, okay, this is something I would never have imagined. And then there were days where you would drink water out of a tap, where you would put a cloth, and the water would come through the cloth, and you would drink it, and then you would see there was full of mud. And you start realizing how privileged we are as individuals, as Indians, as human beings. But how far does privilege take us? Do we like to keep getting richer? Is our life on this planet to become more successful and quantify it with money? Or will we make one promise and one pledge that we will try and make a difference in one more life in our lifetime? So my travels across India led me to meeting these wonderful people. Wasim, for instance, right? He took me to his village to play Holi. There's no need to. But when he took me to his village, I realized how many children don't go to school. It broke my heart. All my school I thought about, I need a new uniform. I need new Bata shoes. I need sports shoes. I need football studs. And here you were in an environment where people didn't even have the ability to go to school. Question idea number one. You've come back to India. What are you going to do about it? How many people do you know? How many people can you talk to try and make a difference? So, I walked into a school and I started spending time on weekends to teach. But you know, children didn't come to school to learn. They came to eat because there was something called a midday meal. Parents couldn't put 2 square meals for their children. This is also the reality of the country we live in. You as educated people have to start taking ownership and responsibility. So when I started teaching in these village schools, I was moving from UP to Bihar to Madhya Pradesh to Karnataka. And the stories were the same. Farmers wouldn't want their children to go to school because they had one simple argument. 13 years before they earn. Well, this evening they can go and rear the cattle. I'll see the product tomorrow. So India was opening up to me in ways that I never imagined it to. Okay? And the journey essentially, and this is food, but I'm going to come to this now. It really allowed me to meet more and more people. I would have spoken to maybe 20, 30, 40,000 people over the last 4, 5 years. And my agenda has been very simple. How do we make education accessible? How important is it to break the mold of these centers that promote homeschooling? You look at Kota today, you take away childhood. And you speak to children. And I went to Kota and I met kids and I said, do you want to be an engineer? No, sir, I want to be an MBA. I want to make lots of money. Where are these aspirations coming from? Where are these ambitions coming from? Parents. And as a collective effort across schools, such as yours, and there are many others here, we need to start addressing that one simple thing, studying what you love. Now, where we lack massively in this country is providing a holistic education to our children. What is a holistic education? Why can't we study physics with philosophy? Why can't you study psychology with, well, not math, because that, as we know, I'm not very good at, with literature? The idea is also for students from a young age to have community outreach, to work with the underprivileged, to teach them, to understand ourselves what privilege is. So every school in this country, and this is probably my 200th talk where I've been going and telling people, send your children out there. Try and live 1 week in a village. Try and see if you can make a difference. Holistic education will only lead you to becoming smarter, educated, and passionate human beings. Somewhere along the way, we've realized that success is determined with money. It's not really. It comes down to you leaving a legacy. And you, my friends, are the future of India. So a holistic education is what is required. So when I moved back to India, I realized there's a lot of movement happening within the secondary and junior and sort of primary school education with the midday meal and things like that. So I had the opportunity to do something incredible. I joined a team to build one of India's first liberal arts colleges. Remember me at 16 that was shunned away and said, you can't study humanities, you can't study social sciences? This is me 16 years later saying, we will build the #1 college of liberal arts in this country where every boy, every girl has the opportunity to study anything that he or she wants to study. You want to do theater with physics? Of course, we'll work towards it. You want to do things that you've always loved and thought, will I make a career out of this? We're going to give you that opportunity. It's very important to ask yourself one question. And parents often tell me this: what is my son's first salary going to be? Now, and I tell them, I'm not a soothsayer, I'm not an astrologer. I can tell you what your son's first class is going to be at college. We often forget there's a journey involved before reaching somewhere. We're so impatient that we've already reached 5 years away from where we are without ever realizing where did those 4 years go. So, today I want you to do one exercise when you go home. On a piece of paper, you can lie to the world, but you can't lie to yourself. I've tried. So, what I would want you to do is, one is obviously support Arsenal. That's very important. Secondly, what I want you to do is, on a piece of paper, write the subjects you love. Write things you're passionate about. It could be food. It could be anything related to things that make you happy. Happiness is underrated, okay? And things you hate. Math. No, any math teachers here? I'm sorry. But, and things you hate. Crumple that piece of paper, okay? Keep it in your wallet. When you decide to study, going to college, open that piece of paper and be honest to yourself. Very important. We live in a startup generation. You can do incredible things with your life. And if you want India to win more Olympic medals, you have to start doing things you love. You need to tell your friend who's a good sportsman to pursue it. Or, well, we can have more IT jobs, as you can see. Because you go to Seattle, you go to Washington, and you're on the tube or a metro, you're like, oh, Desi, off to Microsoft, okay? We have to break that mold. We have to come upon and have more leaders. As a nation, if you ask yourself again, how many global CEOs we have, you are going to be surprised. There are Indra Nooyi at Pepsi, probably there's Banga at MasterCard, there's Satya Nadella at Microsoft, 7 or 8. We're a nation of over 1 billion. We're not 27 people and 3 people have done well. We're like, shabash, well done, you know? Think about it. How do you become the next global leader? How do you become someone giving people jobs and not seeking jobs? Education. That is the most important thing. Education. And not because you have to wake up for a 9 o'clock class, sleepily walk in your pajamas, but you are excited, enthusiastic to walk into a class because you love what you are studying. I've had 6 careers and I'm 32. I'm writing a book and I teach on food. I teach the history of Delhi through food and biryani and kebabs. And I mean, I also do some vegetarian stuff, so if you're ever interested. But it's important that I collated 2 of my most important passions, writing and food. I did dream of becoming an investment banker and holding a green card. I did dream of that when I was 17 because that's what everyone told me. But at 25, when I gave it up, I realized that my heart beats for this country. And by the time I'm 50, I'm going to realize that was the best decision of my life. And I'm going to leave you with one thought. That's me. 26 years ago on this day, I was a model, guys. But not a face model. I was modeling for Bata. So clearly I have good feet. And this is an important day because today is Durga Puja. Okay? And today I'm going to tell you, whatever decision you take, whatever you do in life, keep the child within you alive. Because that child is not going to judge. That child is not going to get on Arnab Goswami's show and have a shouting match. That child is going to actively allow you to be the most reasonable you've ever been in your life. You will laugh, you will make others laugh, and you will be honest. So, embrace that India by being that child you always were. More importantly, remember Bukowski's words, find what you love in this term, a subject, a stream, something that you can make your life out of, and don't judge, spread the good word, right? So thank you very much for listening to me, and build a good India. Thank you.